Welcome to Get Motivated with Donato Parisi, a show designed to reach you where you are, focusing on the fact that you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated. If you need a challenge in your life, then look no further. Get Motivated with Donato begins now.
All right, welcome back, everyone, with my lovely and fantastic guest speaker today, Deborah Allen, Dr. Deborah Allen. And, you know, I can't say enough good things about her. She is, a businesswoman, a coach, a fellow minister in the gospel, so much more, an author, just, can't say enough wonderful things about her. So come on in, Deborah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, guys. I am Deborah. And so I am excited, Dr. Donato. It is Pastor Donato. It's a great day. I think we rock on so many rams together, which is, I think, powerful. I am a author, coach, speaker, and publisher. And so if I would say anything about myself, those would be the first thing that I throw out there. And yes, I am a motivational speaker. That is something important about me because when I became a speaker and I began to motivate, I found a part of me that I felt was missing. I am in ministry, which is my core for like 30 years at least. But I will say that motivational was a surprise to me, but it was a great surprise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally understand. I mean, working in the ministry, you are already kind of that, and you just don't realize. And then one of these days, like the flip, just happens, and it's like, oh wow, I'm so much more, right? So yeah. I totally get it, and it's good to have you on here again with myself, Donato. It's Get Motivated with Donato. I forgot to say that in the beginning. But today, one of the things we want to talk about, most excitingly here, is the new book, Coach Doctors.
I know.
So, yeah, this is so awesome. You're there right with Pamela on the top cover. I'm right there in the back.
Yes.
And it was so awesome to do this book with you. And I guess just let's start off with telling us a little bit about the book and your experience with it, and I don't know, just enlighten us.
I think I have been doing anthologies for about a little bit over 2 years. In the last 2 years, I think I've done about 11 anthologies in the last 2 years. And if I say something about Coach Doctors, that is truly, this was different. It was a different flow for me and Dr. Pamela. I turned 50 this year, and then I graduated with my doctoral degree. And when we were brainstorming, we was like, we got to do something different. Let's celebrate us both being doctors. Let's celebrate the elevation. And it just came. Coach Doctors is a workbook. And so this is not a normal anthology. This is an anthology where we bringing elite specialists to the table, which is our tagline for the book. And so we brought some bad men and women that coach. They bring their own specialty. It's a workbook. It is a global elite tool. This will be a workbook that you can take and bring it into your business. You can take and do group coaching. So many things is in the takeaway. And so I feel different. Though I have dropped my 17th book this week, but this book was different for me. It was for coaches. It was the coach in me that was writing. It wasn't just the author in me, but it was my voice. It was the thing that I really found such pleasure in, that has really been fulfilling in my life, being a coach. And so Coach Doctors is really just special to me. The vibe of it was, let's just not do a book. Let's just not do something everybody else do, but let's boss up. Let's do something different. Let's help coaches that are struggling. Let's work. Let's make this vibe different. And I have never seen an anthology where all coaches who brought their own specialty to the table. And that's what was amazing about this one.
Yeah, no, for sure. And your chapter, I read through it, and like, I don't know how to even describe it. Like, I'll read certain chapters that people write, and it's like, oh, that's good, right? And then, oh, that's good. And it's like, as I was reading yours, like the whole thing just kept building and building and building. And it was like, oh, where it's like, I can't get that like single thought down, followed by another one, because it all just blended in so well. And it just really, kind of, spoke to me, I guess you could say, right? Because I mean, you shared a little bit about, some of the struggles that you had. But your theme on that chapter, right? The title, Coaching Voices, but you speak about our voice and what all that means. So maybe you can, tell us a little bit about what you mean by voice and how that's referenced. And then if you remember your 3 bullet points, we can talk a little bit about those too.
I would say coaching voices. I came through a point in my life, and though I was in ministry and though I had been successful, I felt like I lost a part of me. When I hit about 45, there was a shift in me, but I felt like I lost me. And I think we all can experience that. And what I mean by that is I know who I am, but the essence of who I am, the fire of me, the direction of me, the vision of me, the dream of me, who I want to be when I grow up. I kind of settled, right? I had such great success young. And then I went through a section where I had to walk away from some things. And as I walked away, I didn't understand the process of reinventing yourself. I had to learn how to reinvent me. Right at 50, I have been many versions of Deborah. And I would say that the Deborah I am at 50 is not the Deborah I was at 20. It's not the Deborah I was at 30. It's not the Deborah I was at 40. My God, not the Deborah I was at 45, not at 47. This is a totally different version. It's a better version. And coaching voices, who are you? It makes me think about being passionate about what I want. What do I really want? After I made so much money, I had such success. When I closed my business, I lost who I was because I thought I was that, right? I thought if I didn't do childcare, if I didn't make all the money I made, if I didn't have the land, if I didn't have the things I have, then now who am I, right? My identity was connected to what I did. My identity was connected to how much money I made, how successful I made. But even in the success, I kind of lost me. And so I think I can write it because I've lived it. And I think voices are important because they are who you are. They are your story. It is so many layers of us that we hide, that we don't talk about, that we don't share, that we don't want nobody to know. I don't want to say I'm a pastor and I felt like I lost myself. Not that I couldn't do ministry. We're not talking about that. But I was not fulfilled. It was something missing in me that I was living everybody else's dream and what they thought I should be. You a pastor wife, you did. Everybody had influenced me. And I kind of just went with it. And so finding your voice again is really finding you again. And sometimes that come in being broken. That come in walking away. That come in shifting. That come in saying, I'm doing certain things in my life. I did childcare for a decade. I made so much money. I didn't want to leave it, but I was over it. I'm just saying. I was burnt out. I was done, but I couldn't be done because nobody else was done, right? Our church was supported by child care. Our land, my family worked for the business. And so when I was over it, I couldn't be over it. It held me hostage. To be able to find my voice and say, I don't want to do this no more. And people's like, you don't want to do this no more? But your church sit on like 9 acres of land. I don't care. I don't want to do it anymore. It was the hardest thing I ever did, was to say, I don't want to do it anymore. And so I think that's what's important about finding your voice and coaching voices, is to be okay with who I am, what I really want, who I really am, and I have to be okay with that. Not the version that you want me to be. I have to be the version that I want to be. And that was one of the hardest things I ever did. It was a mess. I panicked, I cried, I boo-hooed, all that. I was salty with God. I was just over it. And for a season, I couldn't get up. It was a season of my life. I went back to corporate America, but for a season, I was kind of discombobulated. I'm like, okay, this is who I was. Now what I'm going to do? I work a regular job. What I do with this check? I was like, really? How you take me all the way here and then you bring me back here? And I don't even understand. I didn't understand. But but I felt like it was necessary. I had to go through them things. I would never be who I am today had I stayed in childcare, because I would have just stayed in that realm. And I was successful enough where I didn't have to look outside it to grow. You know what I mean? I didn't have to shift to be anything else, because that would have been enough. And so I would say, I always write out one of people, and I write from my heart. I'm very transparent. I talked about the fierce system in here, how to reinvent yourself, and I gave steps to that. And so I gave some tips in the chapter about repeat to yourself, everything that I am seeking is seeking me. Why? Because we got to understand what I need is here. I felt like I had lost, and I was like, don't none of this make no sense. I know the Bible. I can quote it. When you got through quoting it, it didn't make sense to me, right? Because what the Bible said was not where I was living. Everything I had believed, that went haywire in my life. But through the process of time, God reminded me that the steps of a good man are ordered by God. So the Bible and mindset went hand in hand for me. I needed mindset to put with the Bible. Sometimes we think the Bible enough. The word of God is always enough, but you can add to it. I think mindset ran alongside it for my brain, and it finally started clicking for me. One of the things I talked about was rest in the fact of knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. Mm-hmm. At 45, I was like, really, God? You know, if you want me to start over at 40, who does that? I was like, what? At 45 years old, I'm supposed to start over. I thought that was just like crazy. That was crazy to me. Then I understood that you are right where you need to be. I felt like I had missed time. I felt like I had missed the moment, and I did. And we can feel like that, like I should be further than where I am. Why I'm building over again. You get in those seasons of your life, you're like, I am so behind. You are not behind. You are right where you need to be. And that's something I will say. And then my last thought, speak 5 positive affirmations every day as you rise. Because gratefulness shifts us like nothing else does. When we are grateful, it changes everything. If I can look at the good things, then my mind is not on the bad things. And if I think success comes from a good attitude. If you have a good attitude, you have a good day, you have a good week, they turn into months, they turn into years, and it comes to a good life. And I think the outlook of who we are has to be there. Now, coaching voices is what I do. I am the creator of the Fierce system, Reinvent Yourself. And I gave some tips of the Fierce system inside of our workbook because I wanted to give people tips on how they can reinvent themselves, because I did.
Yeah, no, I love that especially. I kind of wrote that down in here, but you already took my thunder. But no, I mean, it was great. I mean, you said a lot in that just now. And, one of those things where I think it's key to mention, because I think a normal person, let's say, right, would see a pastor, would see a successful business person and think, well, they've got it all figured out. And, they make so much money, or, they're so successful, or man, they just got life together. Right. And they don't necessarily know that you're a normal person too. Right. You're going through your own struggles. You're talking with God and saying, hey, what's going on? And all of these other things. It's the old metaphor, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Until you get over to the other side and you realize they need a manicure too on their lawn. So it's the same kind of stuff. Like, we all go through stuff. Some people are just a little bit better. You kind of alluded to it, at hiding stuff, not saying what's going on, and, putting on a false facade or something like that. But we all struggle. We all go through things. We all have those different ups and lows, as you mentioned, in our life. And that's important that people know that, and that, you brought some good information there. Like, what are you passionate about? Like, we need to sometimes reignite that passion, right? We need to say, okay, let's get back to square one. What is it that I like? What is it that I want to do? What is it, that I am passionate about? Because I've found, if I'm passionate about something, then I'm more motivated to do it, right? Whereas if I'm not, then it's like, whatever. Maybe I'll do it because it's got to get done or something, but it's not like the passion, like cooking in the kitchen. To me, that's an art form, right? And other people like, oh, what's the box say? Throw stuff together. It's okay. Yeah. So it's what are you passionate about? So I love that. And the one thing you didn't share, actually, but I love where you said it. It says, don't settle for safe. And maybe you could share a little bit more about what that means, but like, do not settle for safe. I mean, I was like, wow, that's good.
I think it means many things. Sometimes because you're good at stuff don't mean that's what you're supposed to do. Childcare, I was graced to do childcare. God anointed me to do childcare. I love the family. I love the children. We gave back so much to our communities. I could do it. I was good at it. But it was only for a season, right? It was my safety. I could have did a lot more with it, but I stayed in the safe zone. I stayed in don't make wave zones. I should have, and if I would have stayed, I should have did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 childcares instead of the one. That means I got comfortable and I stayed there. I let myself be content. And then when I was over it, right? And see, that comes from settling for the sake. I didn't challenge myself in that. If I would have challenged myself, I probably would have did something, rocked on a different level. But I did not. I just played this safe. This is how much money I know I make. This is what I know I can do. It's easy. It's not that it's easy, but it's easy. It's not taking you out of your comfort zone. It's not requiring you to sweat. Not saying that making $2.5 million in childcare don't make you sweat. But I did that in a decade, right? I had a lot of land. I had a lot of employees. It ate money. People say, how you make that much money? That's not no money when you got 9 acres of land, baby. It costs $2,200 a month just to cut the grass because we had softball fields. We had 2 softball fields. We had schools and convent and rectories and all that. So it ate money. We had 5, 6. her 5 buildings and a concession stand. So it was its own city, but it ate land. It ate the money. That's what I would say. Settling for safe is stand when I know I need to go. Shifting when I need to shift is just study, just sitting here dying. I was over it. I wasn't inspired. I was doing it, but it didn't move me. It was easy to sit there because I sat where everybody thought I should have sat. But to be able to stand up and say, I don't want to do that no more. That was the hardest. That was hard because a lot of heck came from it. I caught it on nobody understood it. That's not God. God did tell me to close it. That wasn't God. It is God. We think it's not God because it make us walk away from stuff. It's not God. It is God. Because sometimes you'll never become who you are meant to be if you stay in certain places. I would never be this Deborah. I could never be because the sinner consumed my life. I would have never invested. Yeah, I had 2 degrees, but I would never have invested in me. I never would have looked at my life different. I would never have written. It would have been a whole level of my life that I missed. So don't settle. I like this job, but if I quit, it's make waves. Because it's in the waves that you find it. I'm just sorry. It's in the hecticness. It's in the people think you crazy. I can't believe you closed the center. We vacation every year. Your family work at the center. How could you possibly? Y'all had land what it looked like to other people. So we don't shift because other people will make me feel like I failed. I didn't fail. I choose to walk away. I walked away. I didn't have to walk, but I shifted. And at 40, when I hit 40, I was like, whatever. I felt like it was too much time behind me that I'm not going to stay where I don't want to be anymore. And that can make makes people uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable. It made me cry. I boo-hooed. Oh my gosh. I cried so much in that season of my life. But it was a season I did have to come through. And so don't be safe. Stop playing and staying in places, Pastor D, that we hate. And we have. I used to go to work and I owned it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to get a raise. If I wanted money, I could write my own check. But when I went to work some days, I cringed. Come on, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the safe. It's safe because I come in, I make money. I got this, I got that. But I hated it. I was burnt. I was done. There's nothing nobody could have said to me. I mourned it for a season. I felt bad. I mourned it. I remember crying about it. And God was like, you got to let it go. Because sometimes when you shift, you mourn things. You mourn what you had. If I would have stayed, I wouldn't be going through what I'm going through now. But it all worked out. That's what I would say. I had to go through it. It wasn't no around it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. Like, we all go through stuff in life, right? Yeah. And sometimes we don't understand it. We're like, God, are you sure? Especially if we thought we heard from God about something. I mean, I've questioned God before about stuff. It's like, why am I going through this? I mean, like, all right, Jesus, what's going on?
For real.
And you're like, why am I being tested or whatever, what did I do wrong or, something like that. And you kind of said it, but I guess I'm going to say it in a different way. And you can't stay here, right, in order to get here. If God wants you to go from glory to glory, higher and higher, right? Up, 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 up. He doesn't want you to go down. It just seems, right, in certain periods in time in our lives, you call them seasons. In the book, you said dispensation. I mean, there's many terms we can use for a period of time in our lives where we're going through things. But that's the thing where God wants us to keep moving ahead. But sometimes we do have to leave behind the thing that maybe we're holding dear.
Yeah.
We might be holding it too dear, and we have to lay it down. And I mean, that's essentially what you've been talking about, right? I just phrased it slightly different, but you know, I just love that you're sharing all that experience and that you're being real. That you did that in Coach Doctors. You also did it in the Greatness in You book, which is behind both of us here, and that was a treat, I thought too, where again, we both were in that book. Fantastic Les Brown in there, John Tallarico, fantastic book. And you talk a lot about, again, your childhood, your life, all of these different things. And the one thing I think that resonates, especially in that book, but a little bit in the Coach Doctors too, is the topic on fear, right? And I think that's what drives certain people sometimes. You get into that fight or flight, or you're just too afraid to venture out into the unknown, right? And that hinders you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that fear that you were, talking about in the Greatness book, or just life experiences and stuff like that for us?
Fear can be such a beast in our life.
Yeah.
Fear what other people say. And a lot of times it's fear that we allow people to instill into us. Well, if you do that, this ain't gonna work. If you do this, it's noise. That's what I've learned. It's noise. I remember God telling me, what's wrong with you? I was in church one Sunday and I was in the altar on the ground, and God was like, what's going on? He was like, where is that person that was relentless, that was fearless? He was like, you were a teenager. He said, I brought you through some things and you're going to die here? God was like, who are you? God was like, what's really going on? Right? I was a mother when I was a teenager. I was in church. I left God from 15 to 19. I was a teenage mother when I was a teenager in high school. It took, nobody believed in me but me. The only way I made it through high school is because I refused to give up. God put a relentlessness inside of me, and I believed that he was with me. And I fell from grace from 15 to 19. I got called to ministry when I was about 5. But when I hit about 15, I lost it from 15 to 19. And I went through a lot of things. Oh my gosh. Being a mother when you're 15. Come on, somebody. Just going through high school, catching buses to get to school, wrapping your baby. And I went through so much in my life just to keep going. And then to hit my 40s and say, I'm afraid. And I say, well, who is this girl? What happened to the Deborah that wouldn't leave high school? I gave up scholarships to raise. Come on, because I was always smart. I had all kinds of scholarships. I was going to the Navy ROTC to be an officer. I gave up all those things to have my son and be a mother when I was a teenager. But even in that, I persevered. I fought. But as age came, the fight in me left. I stopped fighting. I kind of went with the motion. So at 40, I was like, girl, who is this girl you have become? Where is the 15-year-old Deborah? Come on, somebody that had to fight to make it through high school. Nobody helped me. The only reason I graduated from high school because I had guts. God helped me through high school, through college, through so many things in my life. Even when I had fallen from grace, he didn't leave me. He still was wooing me back. It took me a couple of years to get sins back because I wanted to be different. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like everybody else and all that. I went through all that. But at 19, I came back and I never left him again. But I experienced so much. But through the process of time, I let the voices of other people stop me. I let what other people said stop me. I let my mind speak to me. there will be a part in your life where you will have to find that person you was that fought. And I remember saying, Deborah, if you made it at 15, at 40, I had to pep talk myself and I say, surely at 40, you can get back up again. It was the hardest thing I ever did was to get up. Because people were talking, oh, you a pastor, y'all pastors, y'all don't have y'all building, you don't make the money. See, when you have money, life is one way. But when you lose stuff or walk away from stuff, people change. Oh, you must have messed up. It wasn't sin. Job hadn't sinned against God. Job hadn't done anything wrong. But a lot of times when God is taking us through processes, people equate that you must have sinned, you must have messed up. That's not true. It's life. I had to stop listening to the noise. I had to stop listening to other people. I had to stop listening to myself. And I had to believe God again. And so fear is a buddy. Fear is a bunch of noise that you can turn off. And if you're going to allow fear to rule us, we will never live the best life that we have because our minds is going to keep us right where we at. There will be no growth. And so I think I heard Steve Harvey say, you just got to jump. And I was like, oh my God. I wrote my first book 2017. It came out in 2018. I submitted it in 2017. I remember telling God, I was so afraid. Fierce was my first book. And I remember telling God, I felt like I had jumped off the cliff. And I remember God telling me, he said, jump, for I will catch you every time. And so once I jumped, you kind of out here now. You just got to go with it, doctor. You just got to go with it, Pastor D. It's just like, I'm out here. And so you just go with it. You just go with it.
Well, and that's the thing. Fear is such a big thing. Like, and I don't think we necessarily know or notice it at times or think about it in that way. But, I always say you can only be in one thing. You can only be in fear or faith, right? We need to operate in faith, but a lot of times we end up in fear somehow. And whether we know it or realize it, right? Our doubts, our unbelief, our hesitation, right? That getting out there, stepping out and, trying something new or different. Oh, I don't have the skill set for that. Or, all of that kind of stuff, we need to put that aside. Right. And like kind of you were saying, God, anoints us for such a time as this, or for this particular thing, or what have you. Right. If God is for us, no one can be against us. Right. So if we have that mentality, if we have that mindset you were talking about before, we can now start to realize I have nothing to be afraid of. I'm with God. He's with me. He's got my back. He told me to do this thing, right? And and he's going to go before me. He's going to be my shield, right? He's going to set all this stuff up. I don't got nothing to worry about. I just have to do my part, and I got to do it, right? I got to take the action. And that's where I think a lot of us, sometimes get intimidated, but we need to step out of that and just know that God's got our back, right?
Definitely.
So
it's not easy. I love the mentors we have had. The legendary Les Brown, the connector, John Tellerico, to understand that greatness is not easy. And I always tell people, especially when I coach, people look at me, they be like, oh, Apostle Dr. Deborah, it's hard. I say life is hard. Come on, somebody. If greatness was easy, then everybody would be great. And that's my philosophy. And so if we're going to be great, we do have to recognize that it is a price. And a lot of times we want things, but we're not willing to pay the price. My husband, Apostle Glenn Allen, said one time, he preached a message. He said, count up the cost. You got to count up the cost to be great, because it does cost us.
Yep, no, for sure. And it was, you mentioned your husband. We just had him on the show too, which was awesome. So, we had a great time.
Walking Bible. He's the walking
Yep,
Bible to me.
yep. That's what I said about his chapter too. I was like, man, I felt like I was in Bible school. It went from Genesis to Revelation. But that's that type of thing, right? It comes with time, comes with maturity. I was just writing my own book here for kind of the new year and encouraging people and stuff. So that'll be coming out here pretty soon. I'm excited about that. But it's that same kind of thing where, and you said it in your book, you're wanting to encourage people to use their voice, right? Because that voice is what's needed for today.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to get out there. We just got to get past our comfort zone, that fear, right, that holds us back, and know that if we just put that foot forward, move into this other thing, God's equipping us, right? He's empowering us, especially if he's told us to do it, and we don't have to worry about it. I mean, it's kind of redundant, like what I was just saying, but it kind of bears repeating, where we just got to get out of that comfort zone, move forward, do those things, and know that, learning something, growing in knowledge, understanding, wisdom, all of that, it's just going to come with time. We can't expect to flip the switch and all of a sudden be, Dr. Deborah Allen, the apostle that, runs this, huge organization and all of these things, right? You built up to that. I mean, you referred to your child care center. It took you 10 years to get to it. Yeah. So it takes time. We can't get this instant thing. What we can do instantly is change our mind and say, I'm tired of living where I'm at right now. It's time to make a change, right? And that's where, like this show's name, Get Motivated. We need to get motivated. We need to decide, all right, it's time to get up off the couch and do something.
That's a hard thing to decide.
Yeah.
It's easy to lay there and wallow. To me,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy to moan and groan. It's easy to, oh my gosh, it didn't work out. That's easy. That's easy. It's easy to give up. I'm sorry. It's easy to lay there and do nothing. It's hard to get back up.
Yep.
It's easy to wallow there, cry about it, mope about it. And but I have been through things in my life, but I'm not a victim. Right. I am not a victim. Les Brown say, what is the story that you tell yourself about yourself? We got to think about the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves. It's not that what other people say, but what am I saying about me? Mm-hmm. And so motivational was that thing that shifted my mind, the upbeatness of it, the rah, 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 the camaraderie of it, all of that. It's easy to fail because you don't have to make an effort. But to win, it's a totally different mindset. People that are great think different, talk different. They look at things different. They say different. And so I believe shifting our tribe is everything. And I think that's one of the things we don't do. I look back and I said, had I had coaches then when I was doing child care, oh my gosh, OMG.
Yeah, you would have had those 10 facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my mind would have been able to handle where I was at. I had success, but my mind could not handle where I was at. You have to grow into who you are.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you were kind of saying there too, and it reminds me of my past a little bit, and you shared in the greatness book, about your childhood, and though we were and are obviously much different, man and woman and everything, but I grew up a little bit anyway in Gary, Indiana, right, where like you talked kind of like about the hood in St. Louis. I mean, I grew up in the straight up hood, right? I mean, you can't get any rougher and tougher than Gary, Indiana.
Come
I'm sorry.
on.
You know, and I'm living in this as a kid growing up. People are packing guns in school, right? And it's just the norm, right? I mean, you don't walk down the anywhere without packing. That's just how rough it was. And, I could have decided, oh, well, that's how life is. And I'm just going to roll with it or whatever. And, this is all I can ever be, and just live that lifestyle. No, I didn't let those choices, or those circumstances rather, dictate who I was, right? I made my own choices, and didn't let that hold me back, right? And that's essentially what you've just got done talking about too. Things happen to us throughout our lives. We got to not be that victim. I mean, some of the stuff might be bad. Don't get me wrong. And it's a shame if you are truly a victim, but we have to, still get our mindset right, and know that we can overcome these things, right? They don't have to dictate the rest of our lives to us, and be stuck in that fear and that mentality that we can't ever accomplish anything after this tragic point in time in our lives. So I mean, it just, all of that just speaks volumes. I mean, I'm sure we could talk on and on and on about those types of things, right?
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit more. I mean, we still got plenty of time here, but I want to know more about like all of those things like you have to offer, because like myself, you just do so much. And I want the people to know, what you offer, why they should get a hold of you, why they should read our books, all of those different things, so they can have those resources, those tools, especially that we talk about in the workbook. I mean, this is such a tool for people to use, because there's about 30 authors here, right? And it's a workbook. I mean, it truly is a workbook. It's that big format, but it's pushing us, beyond ourselves. It's, having us reflect. It's having us get a better mindset. It's giving us tools to follow so we can, develop the proper routines in our lives, get rid of some of the bad habits, and give us those goals and dreams. Like, let's have that $1 million business you were talking about, or whatever else, right? So just again, tell us more about like who you are.
One of the things I love being a coach. So I am an elite coach. What did that mean? I have trained with the best. And being a coach, I took to coaching like breathing. It's different from pastoring, but because it's a different mindset to coach. And so I coach voices. If you feel like you've been lost, if you are stuck, if you feel like you need to reinvent yourself, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want to do, what is in my hand? Come on. Because one of the things God told me when I got back up, he said, use what's in your hand. And I remember saying, God, what I had in my hand was childcare. I don't do that no more. God was like, I put a book in your hand. My book, Fierce, reinvented me. It became my brand. It became my Fierce TV on Dominion TV. It became Fierce Radio, the Fierce Ignition and Activation Show on Envision Radio and podcast. My book, my original book, became my entire brand. I thought me being strong and me being fierce, people made me feel like there was a defect in me, that I was strong, that I could endure, that I can push past things that other people could not. But God told me, but that is something I put in you. He said, it's not a defect. He said, I gave you the ability to be fierce, to be strong. He said, it is something, it was a gift. Some of these things that's in us, they are gifts in us. But we make people would make us feel like that's a default in you. That you got a default because I'm not like everybody else. And a lot of the saints would say, Lady Allen, not emotional. You can't be an emotional leader. If you're an emotional leader, we're not going to have good leadership. So we do have to be able to mature. So I am a coach. I coach women. I normally coach women from the age about 25 to 55. Women that's shifting, reinventing themselves, finding themselves. I coach childcare, authors, leaders, ministry, prophetic, and a lot of authors and a lot of other things. Entrepreneur. I coach in a lot of different areas because at the age of 50, I have been a successful entrepreneur for many years. I also shifted from just being an author. My writing took me to being a speaker. So I am a National Speakers Association speaker. I'm a Black Speaker Network speaker and a Les Brown certified speaker. So I speak. I love to speak. I always thought that my voice was going to only be used for ministry, Pastor D. When I saw stages, when I saw doors, when I saw opportunities, I always thought it was, quote, ministry only. I never understood that God would take me and put me on stages for the masses and motivational. So sometimes the dreams we have, we think they're one thing, but they can branch off and be so much more. I thought church was all I would preach, but really God took me to the masses and allowed me to speak motivationally. So I am a speaker. I am a publisher. I am the visionary of Igniting the Flame Publishing, which did Coach Doctors, which did The Greatness in Youth, Women of Power, Ignited to Serve, and so many other books we have done this year. I am doing all kind of specials for writing, but I am different because though I am a publisher, I am an author. And a lot of my programs that I created in publishing was out of the needs that I had needed as an author. Same with my coaching. A lot of my programs, I have about 10 to 12 programs that I do in coaching. But a lot of my coaching programs, entrepreneurs are answers to a problem. There was things that I needed, stages. So one of the things I do, I give people stages, TV, radio, magazines, features, summits, conferences. I do all kinds of stages because when you're a new author, you need to be somewhere to promote your book. So I created that. I'm one of the people, I help people to be seen and heard. And then when you get seen and heard, how do I maximize the moment of that opportunity? I coach that. And so from everything that an author would need when it comes to developing, writing, all that, I do all of that. But a lot of my stuff was birthed out of what I needed. There was things that I needed that I didn't have. So I birthed what I needed because I knew other people would need it. And that is one of the things I did, if that would help. But I would just say, coach, author, speaker, publisher. I guess I'm going to throw in there preacher. I preach the gospel. And so I do that as well. So I travel to speak on the motivational realm, but I also travel as a ordained bishop. Come on, somebody. 30 years in ministry. It took a long time to rank up in ministry. Our organization is the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. I am their lead jurisdictional ambassador for our missions department. That means that we take care of a lot of missions. We do a lot of food, water, school, supplies on a global. Our job is to raise money and to be ambassadors to represent other people that are in need. And we bring in a lot of money doing that as well. And I do that as well. I do a lot in ministry. I am a pastor, but I am a pastor's wife. That was hard too. Because they would say, oh, you're a pastor wife. You're supposed to be seen and not heard. No, I'm a preacher. And that's because, see, a lot of wives don't preach. But I am a preacher.
Right.
And so God allowed me to break the molds in many things. Me and my husband were bishops together. We became apostles together. We graduated together with our doctorate degree. Though he has maybe a decade at least on me in ministry. At least. I'm saying that graciously. He got more than a decade. When I was 11, he was born again. Okay? No, I was 7 when he was born again. Ain't that something? Woo! Just saying.
No, that's amazing.
Amazing.
We that's the thing. We all have stories, right? And the point that all of those things that we go through in life are really not just for us, right? As once we get through them, once we get that, that wisdom, the knowledge and understanding of like why we went through stuff, right? We get to share those testimonies like you've today, right? I mean, a lot of what you've shared with us today is a testimony, and it's being able to share that story with somebody else to encourage them, especially where they're at in life, going through the same types of things and being able to help pull them back up. And that's what it's all about, I think. One last question I have for you before we wrap up. What was the favorite or about the new book that we did, Coach Doctors, like throughout that project? Okay. What was your like favorite thing about doing that book?
Allowing the authors who were coaches to share their specialty, to hear their heart. Because it's not just like writing a chapter. No. Coach Doctors is not just writing a chapter in a book. No. These are coaches that has had experience, that has had success. Share what is their heart. And this what was special about it. Because we all share something that was very intimate to us. Me talking about coaching voices. I could have named it something else. I could have named it a whole lot of things. But to go through the book and hear all the coaches champion for why they do what they do was my favorite part. To hear their heart, to see them want to make an impact. Everybody that wrote in this book, every coach wrote to make it an impact. When we wrote it, we understood it would be a global tool. We understand it was going to be an elite book. We understood it was going to be something nobody else has done. We understood that we had to bring our specialty and let people hear it. We understood that somebody's going to pick our book up, read what we wrote, have to fill in, go through some of our processes. We understood that this is a tool. We didn't write just to say, oh my gosh, we wrote. No. This entire project was always meant to be a tool for somebody else. That is the greatness of the workbook. That is the most important thing about this one that will reign in my heart forever, because every coach shared who they were. And I think that's a rarity for somebody to be able to say, not only am I going to share what I do and why I do it, but I'm going to give it to you and you're going to be able to use all of us. You're going to go through here and you can pick up Every chapter, I picked up something from everybody. Come on. It says bringing elite specialists to the table. Come on. So when I read the chapters, I was taking notes. Everybody gave me, you could go through every chapter, hear the voice, but they uniqueness. That was the product. That I think that's the takeaway. It wasn't like any other book because we did make it a tool.
Well, and tell us a little bit more about that, because we've got like people from all over the world on here. And how many bestsellers did it make?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I can tell you, and I should remember, God help us. I bet so many books, Lord. I can tell you real quick. We made a lot. Let me look. I'll tell you real quickly. Coach Doctors made 2-time bestseller. That means the paperback was bestseller. The ebook was bestseller. We made bestseller in 21 categories. We made #1 in 7 categories, and we was international #1. We made bestseller in several countries. This book, 21 categories, but to make #1 in 7 different categories on a global realm. Not just the ebook that was on sale, the paper book at full price made bestseller. This book rocked on so many levels. I made bestseller in a lot of places. In this last 2 years of my life, I've made bestseller. The last 4 or 5 years I've been writing, I've been bestseller 28 times.
Wow.
International bestseller about 13 times. No other book that I have published or written in has been bestseller #1 in 7 categories. None. So it rocked by itself.
Yep.
Because people saw that it was a tool. We promoted it as a tool. We didn't promote it as like, oh, come on, this is cute. No. Come get this elite book that's going to help you with your business. That's going to give you some tools and some guidelines. You're going to be able to use this book. You're going to be able to open up this book. You're going to write in this book. It was promoted different, Pastor Donato. It was different.
Yep. No, and it was great. I mean, I like it that, again, on the back here, we've got so many different people. And, Angela, for example.
Global coaches.
Exactly.
Global coaches.
Everyone from around the world. I mean, we got what? Australia in here, UK. We
Africa.
got just so much. I mean, we basically covered the globe nearly on that.
Yes, we did. We got authors that were born in Trinidad. Come on, somebody. Mm-hmm. We just had how powerful. I am so proud of this book, the workbook. We can have success, but to have success is something that you do. And I think that's what's great with all our coaches. We saw that this is who we are. This is what we do. And we rocked in the area of what we do. Not many people can write books about their field and rock it to this level. I'm just saying. But when you specialist, Pastor D, you can rock it to that level. And we had some bad specialists in this anthology.
Yep, we sure did. Well, hey, thank you again so much for being on the show today, Deborah. So appreciate it. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you again. And everybody out there, get motivated and be blessed till next time. Take care.
Follow Donato on Facebook and LinkedIn at Donato Parisi, or go to donatomotivates.com. Remember, you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated.